Welcome to the Love the Star podcast. I'm Bobby Belt, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105 through the Fan in Dallas. Joined as always by former NFL scout Bryan. He is a Super Bowl winner. He is also the pre and post game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network and the co-host of the G-Bag Nation 2 to 7 p.m. Friday on 105 through the Fan in Dallas. And Bryan, I just want to kick things off here, start things off by saying from the bottom of my heart, I forgive you. I forgive you for your Trey Lance takes, and I want to let you know I've moved past it.
Yeah, I'm glad you've moved past it, and I forgive you too, Bobby. You should never have takes about players like you do, but it's amazing that they give you these platforms.
It's wild.
It just kind of shows you that anybody can grab a mic and talk about crap. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about.
Anybody can do it, guys. You can walk in just like I did and talk about Trey Lance. Of course, you guys would have heard, for those of you that subscribe, you would have heard our post-game interaction on the Cowboys radio network, where the Cowboys won 27-12. Yeah. So we're going to have takeaways from that. But I know we've also gotten a lot of questions about our disagreement on Trey Lance, which is something that we've gotten into on the Fan and stuff like that, which I think I speak for Bryan. I don't want to presume to, but I know I wasn't bugged by it. It was just it was a back and forth. It's a typical back and forth, going back and forth. Bryan, ultimately, what I think this comes down to is I thought Trey Lance was better on Saturday night, and I think that there were things that you can look at and say, oh, that was better, this was better, this was better. To me, I guess I looked at it and I said that I don't think that there's a difference between being better or perform better and like actually being better. I still think that's a question. It wasn't enough that had gone on there. He didn't blow it out of the water or fix some of the accuracy stuff that made me feel like this answers questions that I have about him. The same sort of issues that I have, I think, still exist. Now, if he stacks up these performances in the next week and you start hearing more positive stuff coming out of practices consistently, then you've got something. But to me, it's a nice thing to note, and you give him his flowers for saying he did a good job the other night, but I don't know that we can glean anything permanent from it yet.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I think he's come a long way from what we've seen for the first days of training camp, where he didn't look like an NFL quarterback. And that was something that you and I have talked about before. Yeah. You made the statement. And, I didn't really like what Trey Lance did in the red zone against the Rams. It was a vastly improved effort for him with not only the completions, his ability to see what was going on, the touch pass he made for a touchdown. I kind of feel like, though, when you look at him play, and I was talking about the touchdown pass to Flournoy. Mm-hmm. It's a pass he missed the week before. And to me, are there things that Trey Lance absolutely needs to get better at? Yes. I think the thing that just got me twisted was I didn't feel like that you were giving him enough credit for his improvement. And that to me where I think it's one thing that it's our job to be critical of these guys. It's also our job to be fair.
Sure.
And there's sometimes in this and maybe this is where I got it wrong with you, is I always found like on these national shows that they just go off. You got guys like the Shady McCoys and people like that, and they say something and they just don't ever want to back off from that. And where I was wrong was putting you in the same category of Shady McCoy. Unfortunately, well, why can't you say anything, why can't you say anything good about this player? But when he plays poorly, we have to be the first to say, there have been practices where he's missed and he hasn't seen guys. In the Rams game, if he makes 3 different throws, maybe we think about him as a different quarterback.
Right.
But I to my fault, I put you in the category of the national media guy that will never say, even though they had a hot take, they won't say, well, they won't acknowledge, and you acknowledged,
Yeah.
You said like he got better, and at midnight or whenever we're doing our show, I took that as like, well, damn, Bobby, give him some credit.
Sure.
I mean, and that's where to me, when you just basically say it's not changing my mind, I'm like, okay, that's fair. Once I sat back and looked at it, that's fair. But I just immediately thought all those guys and gals that hot take this thing, and they hot take it, and they keep hot taking it and hot taking it and hot taking it. When you can say, you know what, I think this guy's better than what I thought. This guy, this is where I maybe missed this guy. There's Bo Nix. There's things about Bo Nix, the quarterback at Denver, that a lot of NFL scouts, a lot of player personnel guys, a lot of the scout media, they were wrong, and it looks like they were wrong in some ways about Bo Nix. And people are like, well, God, give Sean Payton credit. Yeah, I'm going to give Dan Lanning and those guys at Oregon credit, because that guy at Auburn didn't look like an NFL quarterback.
No.
And they've done things but him coming out of the draft, second, third round grade, that doesn't look accurate right now. Now we'll see how the season plays out. We'll see how it plays. But I think that we have to be willing to be able to stand in there and say, you know what, this guy got better today, or this guy got worse today. And I took it as a hot take that was, come on, man, you got to give the guy a little credit. And I took it the wrong way.
Yeah, no, and I probably didn't communicate effectively enough.
I read the tweet the wrong way. Instead of just asking you, like, listen, you really believe that Trey Lance can't play quarterback in this league now?
Well, and it's something where I think that when I step back and say, like, yeah, he played better, I need to see more before I'm going to say I feel like he's made progress, because I need to see consistency, because consistency has been his issue. I didn't communicate that as clearly or as succinctly that night, because also you're coming right out of there, and it's just we haven't even had time to like process everything necessarily yet, and it's also the I
honestly thought you were talking about the running backs.
I mean, I was in the back end of the tweet where I'd said, because I used the running backs as an example. I said Deuce Vaughn looking better tonight, Royce Freeman looking better tonight, doesn't make me say that the running back room is fixed.
Yeah,
like similarly,
that point I would agree with you on.
And so similarly, I was trying to say Trey Lance looking better tonight doesn't tell me Trey Lance is fixed, or the issues that I have with Trey Lance are fixed. And that's kind of where it came down. But enough talk about that.
Would you be surprised though if we get to the final 53 and Trey Lance is the backup quarterback, is quarterback number 2?
Not necessarily. I do think it's Cooper Rush right now. I would say if you're going to tell me Dak is going to be out for a game, I want Cooper Rush starting. If you're telling me Dak is out for the season, I think I want Trey Lance starting.
Because you want to see if Trey Lance could actually
put it all out there. Let him see what he can do. I know what Cooper Rush is, and I know Cooper Rush can also win me a game and effectively manage a game. I don't know that yet about Trey Lance, but I don't know much about Trey Lance for sure in game situations. So let me see it. Bring it out there. And so I think it kind of depends. But look, he's somebody who, I'll tell you, I'd asked Nick Eatman this. I said, do you think we learned more about Trey Lance on the football field in this game, or more about Trey Lance between the ears? Because I think that's what I learned more about Trey Lance is, all right, a lot of criticism, a lot of chatter, a lot of everything else. He didn't let it crush him going into this game. There was a lot of talk about him. And so that's something definitively you can see, okay, here's the situation, here's a response to it, here's how he performed. So I think that we can definitively take that away, that it says he has mental toughness, or that's a marker of mental toughness. Looking at the rest of this game, Bryan, and what went on, I don't know about for you. The big headline for me, I think, was the movement they got in the run game early against Raiders starters, specifically Bass and Beebe. I think Beebe outperformed Brock Hoffman in this game. But that was kind of my large takeaway, was movement in the run game, like in the run blocking against starters. and then specifically BB all around performing better than I thought Hoffman did.
Better combination blocks, better blocking from the tight ends. How about that?
Schoonmaker did a decent job on one rep on Crosby.
Schoonmaker, when you look at Schoonmaker, there were a couple of times where Schoonmaker, the combo blocks, Guyton, they worked well together. There was a couple of times where Stevens was able to get his guy in the backside. Really, really good athlete when he stays on his feet and stays connected. A couple of misses, negative play. They tried to toss. Stevens got beat badly at the point of attack. Schoonmaker, he had a problem with they tried to run the RPO into space, and you've got Trey Lance trailing behind him, which is kind of a staple play. We've seen it before where it used to be Dalton Schultz running ahead of Dak Prescott and kind of being the lead blocker. And Schoonmaker missed that block. He missed in space there. But I felt overall the guards, the center, the tackles, and tip of the cap to Matt Waletzko, because we don't talk about him very much. Played the whole game, and so gave up no sacks, no pressures, according to Next Gen Stats. If you look at the metrics that for his game, so
yeah, I will just really quickly on Waletzko say didn't give up any sacks. Those snaps against Crosby were rough at times.
It was really rough. It was really rough. But you know what? He didn't get discouraged. He knew that was going to be. He knew he was outgunned there.
The run stuff. The run stuff was more. Waletzko's run stuff was more. I guess more encouraging to me than somewhat I saw in the pass protection.
Sure.
It's just, and I know people say it's Crosby across from. If he's going to be on this roster and he's going to have to step in, he might have to stand across from a Max Crosby, and that's something where you need to see that.
If that's the case, then you better damn well game plan, or you're going to have the Chaz Green game again. If that's that, and we saw that the very first time that Terrence Steele started a game against the Chargers, and Bosa was standing over across. Joey Bosa was standing over there, and we saw spacing, we saw tight ends, we saw chip. We saw one-on-one. We saw a lot of things. So they would clearly game plan if Waletzko had to play over there. But I just want to give him a tip of the cap.
Sure.
But the running game stuff, the backs were more, it's the first time, Bobby, that we've had the backs really healthy all camp. I've been, today I was out here watching mock game, and unfortunately there's a couple linebackers standing over there. Overshown standing over there, and, Clark standing over there. That kind of sucks. But this was the first time that we've had all the backs that were able and available for the game, and I was happy that Mike McCarthy's game plan showed, like, okay, how about a little commitment to trying to run the football, and they had some success. Freeman's success was good. Deuce Vaughn's success was good. Deuce Vaughn looks different running the football because someone has gotten to his head that when you run, don't dance, run. Go forward as fast as you can. If it gets 3 yards, if it gets 4 yards, if it gets 2 yards, don't get trapped for a no gain. Don't get trapped behind the line of scrimmage. Don't look to bounce everything. If they hand you the ball, go downhill as fast as you can. And if you're fortunate enough to get into the second level, then you could do your dancing and moving and stuff like that. But he is a different looking back with the speed and the quickness that he shows. But he was a downhill player in that game. And that is, you got to give him high marks for that.
Really quickly before we go on to some 53-man roster stuff, the name that came out of this one, the guy who flashed a bunch, Keeman Hall. Watching back the tape, does he look like a legit player to you? The North Texas grad has hung around some practice squads for a couple of years and played really well in this game.
Played a lot of snaps. Played a lot of coverage snaps. Was in the slot primarily. Had really one bad play where he had a missed tackle in space. Other than that, he was pretty solid in his coverage. The guy that the metrics said played better was Mukwamu. If you look at the numbers with the number of snaps, too, there was 4 targets, no catches, where Hall had some catches against him, but that's okay. Him, Booth, those guys, they played, and Booth, Hall and Booth played a lot of snaps in that game. And I don't know how many corners they're going to keep, Robert. I really don't. They might try and keep 5 corners, 5 safeties. They might try and keep, it might be, depending on what they do with McQuamu, it might be just, okay, we can keep 6 and a 6 and a 4. And the fact that Izzy can play both. But I think the safety position doesn't need the swing guy. What they need is they need the guy that can play the slot the best and potentially play outside if something were to happen, say with Carson. We haven't seen Carson play much inside at all, if at all. I haven't seen him. Hopefully he'll get back soon enough here with the wisdom teeth situation that he was dealing with. But yeah, I think it was a nice day for Hall, just for the fact that he plays a lot of snaps in practice. He plays in the nickel, and you got to kind of figure out, where does he really fit? Him, McQuamu, Booth. I think maybe 2 guys battling or 3 guys battling for 2 spots, or maybe 3 guys battling for 1 spot, depending on how things go.
Let's talk about that. You are listening to the Love the Star podcast, the Love the Stars and Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Bryan, I have painstakingly looked over the roster and tried to start figuring some things out, because we are 2 preseason games down. There's just 1 left. And then we will get cuts coming our way here momentarily. But I had looked through the roster and I was like, all right, let me try and trim this thing down where I see it right now. Okay. And some of these things that I'm going to do here are going to include, Idoga's not going to be on this roster, but he's got to be on the roster the first day because they've got to get him to IR.
Do you think they're going to put him on IR?
I think they are. That could change, obviously, over the course of time, but I think
they need the spot, right? They need the spot.
Yeah, because if he's on IR now, just in terms of when he would be able to come back, it makes things a little more complicated for him. So have to keep him until they can put him on IR there. But so those sort of procedural moves, or like the yearly, we're cutting this guy, but he's coming back because we're just trying to get somebody on.
Stieg, the long
somebody
snap,
like that. Yeah,
the punter.
CJ Goodwin. Those are those procedural moves. I'm not good. So this is basically going to be, who do I think the roster is heading into week 1 based on the guys who are here right now. So on the offensive side of the
can
ball,
I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I would take CJ Goodwin's spot if I needed an extra corner.
That might come up here. That might come up.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Let's see what you think here.
I think there's some overratedness going on here, but that's just me.
I don't disagree. I just know the deference they've had a lot of times.
I get it, and I get it. But if you could keep we just mentioned 3 corners that could all play. You know what I'm saying?
No, on offense, I got 25, Bryan. 25 of the 53 spots. So quarterback 3. Dak Prescott, Trey Lance, and Cooper Rush. No qualms there? No questions there?
No questions.
All right, let's get to running back now.
It's just going to be a matter of who's 2 and who's 3. That's the question.
Let's get to running back here. 5 running backs. Dowdle, Ezekiel Elliott, Hunter Lipke, Malik Davis, Royce Freeman. Who's questionable there for you?
Davis
is you're starting to cool on the hype train over there a little bit.
They keep talking about him. Man, had a good run. Also had an opportunity to make a cutback run that BB and those guys done a good job, and he ran right to darkness instead of making a cut. And he had a chance to run back to his left, and I kind of felt like that it could have been a bigger gain. But they've been giving this guy, it seems like, a lot of opportunity. They keep talking about him, but I would say he would be the question mark for me. If I'm more likely to feel like they're going to go 3, and then Hunter Lipke would be the 4.
I think that it wouldn't surprise me. Davis is really only on this one because of reading the tea leaves, how much they seem to talk about him, and his experience having been around here now for a couple of years. But I wouldn't fight anybody who said they have Davis off of their roster. Wide receiver.
No Deuce Vaughn there.
No Deuce Vaughn.
Okay.
Maybe that changes again over the next couple weeks, but just as it stands today. Wide receiver, I got 5.
Okay.
Lamb, Cooks, assuming Lamb will be here, Tolbert, Turpin, Brooks. That's the group that I have there. Flournoy, McMath, Cropper, these guys, I end up saying just not enough room, mainly because you're going to need offensive line depth.
So yeah, you say so. You got Lamb, Tolbert, Cooks, Turpin,
Brooks.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, it's either going to be 5 or 6 there, and I think you're going the right direction there. I think that if there was a carry to the 6, I think that Cropper's the guy, but I think it's a lot closer now than it was before the Raiders game. I think Cropper's brought the rest of the group back to him. Is what he's done.
Cropper didn't pop in the game, and Cropper had a fumble on special teams. Those are two things that were really going to harm him. Tight end, this is another one I wrestled with. Ultimately, I gave that spot to Malik Davis, that 5. But tight end, I kept 3. So it's Ferguson, Schoonmaker, and John Stevens, with Princeton Fant getting the axe here.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that. If I had to power rank them, Ferguson, Stevens, Schoonmaker is how I would do that.
Oh yeah, and that's not a depth chart. That's
no,
more
I just threw that out there just for my knowledge.
So now we go to the offensive line setup, and this is obviously really difficult right now. With Waletzko has struggled at times. Doga's hurt. The tackle spot isn't totally clear. Your tackle depth. I've got 9 offensive linemen, and 3 of them are tackles because one of the guards is going to be a flex guy who can potentially be a 4th tackle. 3 tackles, Guyton, Steele, and then I've got going back and forth on it. I went ahead and said Ball over Waletzko because I think Ball's flexibility to play both sides and play inside ultimately is something that gives him the edge. And then on the interior, Tyler Smith, Zach Martin, TJ Bass, Brock Hoffman, Cooper Beebe, and then Awesome Richards as a guy who can flex out to tackle as well. And I think that's going to kind of be their coverage until they get a Doga back as the swing.
As we're taping this right now, we just got done with a mock game. I saw TJ Bass playing some tackle.
He's got experience doing it.
Yeah. I wonder if we're going to start to see him get some opportunity. Maybe they're trying to get ready for this game. Maybe they don't want Waletzko to go the whole game. If you talk to the people in the building, they will also, because I reached out to a guy in the front office and I said, "Hey, it looks like you got something in Awesome Richards as a guard," and the guy goes, "Yeah, but I think he's a better tackle."
Yeah,
but,
I mean
he wants to play. It's not like Awesome Richards wants to play. It's not like he wants to be a guard. That sounds like what he wants to be, but the team views him as a pretty darn good tackle or tackle option. So if that messes with your numbers at all, let me know.
Do you think I'm missing something with Ball over Waletzko?
No, I don't.
You would say Ball ahead right now?
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie to you too. I might even be scouring the waiver wire for another guy.
Yeah, I mean that's.
I might claim a guy if I think I got a guy that's better than Ball or Waletzko. That 10th guy could be somebody from another team if somebody makes a mistake on a player and tries to sneak him through.
I'll go ahead and say before we get to the defensive side, special teams will have 4 on it. Aubrey, Trent Sieg, Bryan Anger, and then CJ Goodwin I have on there right now.
Yeah.
As just a specialist. And yeah, that could be an expendable spot. But just for now, I've got it there.
You know what? If I worked in this front office, Bones Fossil would probably hate me because I would fight him on Goodwin. I would. And yeah. I get it. You know, you have your favorites, you have your core guys. I understand. But there, to me, if I can have a guy, one of these young corners, and I could keep him and have the ability to play him at corner but also play him on special teams, is CJ Goodwin just that? Is he like that guy that played at New England, or is he that guy? I mean,
yeah, is he Matthew Slater? Is he Steve Tasker?
Yeah. Bill Bates? What is he? I mean, is he that valuable to you that all of a sudden you're going to put a young corner on the street because you have to have a special teams guy because the assistant head coach, well, Al Harris is assistant head coach, but the guy who does with the microphone and talks the whole practice wants a guy? I would argue that if I was in player personnel here, I would like, why are we putting, but you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to rock the boat because what happens is you end up in radio like me.
Well, and I don't disagree with you. I would look to take that spot. I might
need that spot. I need that spot.
I agree. I I think that Bones carries so much weight with guys 48 through 53.
Huge weight.
And just kind of where I project they're going with it right now.
Yeah, I know. You're not wrong. Go ahead. You're not wrong.
Less about what I would put on there, but just more.
Go ahead and go to the defense. Go to the defense.
Defense.
We're arguing about something that's not going to happen.
We have 25 on offense, the 4 specialists, which means there's 24 slots left. So you're running a little lighter on defense.
Defensive, you're carrying Goodwin.
Goodwin, yeah. Who's a defensive player, Brian? Come on. Defensive ends. I'm including Micah Parsons in the defensive ends. I've got 5 here: Golston, Tank Lawrence, Micah Parsons, Marshawn Nealand, and then I've got of the veteran free agent additions, I've got Carl Lawson over Muhammad.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Do you think they might go 6-4?
I've got
the sixth one. If I would take Wheat over Muhammad if it was me.
Yeah, I mean Wheat's got fans within the Cowboys, so I mean that makes sense. You're gonna probably gonna have to dissuade me of this next.
So you're
take
going 9 then. You're going 9 then is what you're doing.
I'm going 5 edge and 4 tackles. So
okay,
the tackles.
We'll play your game. Go ahead. But I would. Yeah, I like what you did. But I would, if I had to have one more guy, I think I'd go with Wheat. That's who I'd go with.
Carl Davis, Osa Odigizua, Mozzie Smith, Jordan Phillips as the defensive tackles. So you end up having to say,
Carl Davis is gone.
Let's hope Justin, or sorry, not Davis. I had Davis cross that. Justin Rogers, Osa, Mozzie, and Phillips. Justin over. Yeah. I had Mozzie or Carl cross.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you confused me there for a second.
No, I know.
So Mozzie, Osa, Phillips, and
Justin Rogers. And so you end up having to, you sign off with Albert Huggins, who didn't play poorly. It's just, to me, you're talking about a legitimate one technique in Justin Rogers.
The thing with Phillips is that he might be in a situation where not Phillips, our guy that who am I thinking of here at the defensive tackle spot? Hold on one second here.
Huggins.
No, why am I going? I'm drawing a blank on my guy here. That my defensive tackle. You said Rogers, Osa, Phillips,
and Mozzie.
Okay, I get it. Yeah. See, Huggins, I don't know. That Huggins showed up in the game the other day. I guess
Huggins showed some pass rush stuff.
I guess you got to put a blue polo on whoever you're playing. It says Rams on it, and let him go at it. That kind of thing. But he played really, really well the other day. He was square. He caught pressure. He he was active. He might be your backup 3. So I would. I don't know. I think he might be the last guy. He might be the last guy you have.
And look, I mean, Jerry talked about it in the pregame show with Christy Scales. He made it sound like they're still going to get another defensive tackle. So
that's where
that defensive tackle, that spot is probably just person we don't know yet.
Okay, if you had to move on from a defensive tackle of the 4 you named, who you moving on? You trying to get Rogers through?
On my list, probably Rogers. Yeah, because I mean, of Phillips, Osa, Mozzie, I'm not doing anything with them.
Yeah.
So that 4th spot right now is held by Rogers or Huggins, I would assume.
Yeah.
Linebackers. This is where I might be. This is where I think you're going to disagree with me.
You're going to go long here, aren't you?
I am. I got 6.
I don't blame you for going long.
I don't know how much I can trust the health of everybody in there. So I've got Damone Clark, Eric Kendricks, DeMarvion Overshone, Maris Leofau, and then I get Willie Harvey and Nick Vigil on the roster. I'm carrying both of them to give me some linebacker depth here, especially because I think we're going to see Mike Zimmer playing more 3 linebacker looks than we got traditionally from Dan Quinn.
Man, I'm on the struggle bus with Willie Harvey right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Nick Vigil a lot. I mentioned him in the pregame show the other day. But I think with Willie Harvey, gosh, that's a tough one. One of the big runs that the Raiders had, it was Rodgers at the point, Leofau at the point, and they had Harvey as a scrape linebacker, and he couldn't get there.
He was late.
And it turned out to be a big run. And we've seen kind of I think he played better this game than he played against the Rams. But I worry overall. That's a couple of games where I've seen that there's been some cracks in the armor there. So I wouldn't have Willie Harvey on this team.
I've got corners. I got 5. It's Bland, Diggs, Jordan Lewis, Kalen Carson, and then I keep Andrew Booth is the guy that I end up keeping there as the 5th cornerback. And then my 4 safeties, Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, Wanye Thomas, and Marquise Bell. You want that extra DB, though, don't you?
Always do.
So you would say Harvey out, and then bring which would you keep, Mukwamu?
There's the thing about Mukwamu is you could talk about the flex, but I think they're good at safety. But he could play outside and he could play the slot. And there's been times where he's looked really, really good. I don't want to give up one of these young guys. I really don't. I really do like Hall, but is Hall a dime a dozen player? It's always funny. I always talk to Todd Archer about this, and he goes, you can find these guys. You can find these guys like that. There's something about Hall, his tackling ability, his cover ability. He's smart. If you could train him to be a special teams guy, there's your CJ Goodwin guy.
Sure.
The guy that's smart, guy that's tough, the guy that will tackle, guy that can run. I don't want to put guys in the street that I think he's a good player. And I always say this. Oh well, somebody will claim this guy, and then next thing you know, they're all in the practice squad.
Yeah.
They're always every year I go, oh well, they'll claim that guy. Well, they're all in the practice squad now. So I personally I don't want to expose him, but we'll see how he plays against the Chargers on Saturday.
So for you, it would be Harvey off, mainly from the guys that I put out there. Harvey off. You would have Malik Davis off.
Yeah.
But otherwise, pretty much what you expect it to look like as of this moment.
I like what you're doing. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, very good. See, we finished on some. We finished. It all came full circle here. You're listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Stars is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, it is now time for our Dean Julia Love the Star mailbag, where we turn things over to our dear sweet listeners, get their thoughts, their comments, their questions. First one here from Alex. And Brian, I tried to get as many first time questions as I could. First time listener questions.
Thank you. I really appreciate the folks that do listen to us every day. And I'm sorry if we don't get your question. I'll try and get your question on Twitter. Is what I'll try and do.
Alex S. says, would and should the Cowboys look at trading one of the backup quarterbacks since there is a surplus and major needs still at running back and depth on the D-line? Would you try and do a Cooper Rush or Trey Lance for running back or defensive tackle type of swap? I, for the record, don't believe the Cowboys would entertain such a deal, but I would you be interested in it yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always open to trading players. There's certain players you absolutely would not trade, but I feel like that if you have surplus at safety, you have surplus maybe at wide receiver, you maybe have some surplus if you want to move one of the quarterbacks. I think it's hard to trade Trey Lance, right? Isn't Trey Lance kind of a $5 million or $6 million
yep.
guarantee right there?
Yeah.
I think that money, I don't think they want to do that. But if someone were to offer you something reasonable for Cooper Rush has proven he can win NFL games.
Sure.
And you know what? Cooper Rush looks like a different quarterback now because, as I've said, he's like, what do I have to lose? I mean, they're going to be the second or the third quarterback. He's throwing the ball down the field more. He might actually be legitimate. Instead of checking it down, he downfield routes, the outs, the comebacks, the thing. He's trying. So yeah, if it brings you quality, I am always open to trading players.
One of the, I think if you were to look at the spot and say, here's where you have the most, not just people we like or that have flashed for us in training camp. Like Julius Wood has been fun to watch. Do I think Julius Wood could garner trade interest? Probably not. So if you looked at it and said, where's the biggest surplus right here, Brian? Wouldn't it be one of your guards? One of your guards is likely to fetch you something where you feel like you've got a lot of depth there, and you could also probably get an NFL team who says we want them.
Yeah,
and so if
but see the problem that I have is that I might need to move my tackle. If things don't work out at tackle, like the left tackle, say something were to happen to your rookie, or something to happen to your right tackle, God forbid, I might have to move Tyler Smith, to make sure that I can maybe win these games. And I might have to plug in BB. I might have to plug in Bass. I might have to plug in somebody to take that spot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, and if you tell me if they think that Austin Richards has tackle potential, maybe they move him outside. But I'm kind of holding on to my interior guys just because I might have to move Tyler Smith in case of an emergency, a break glass situation.
Yeah.
And I'm going to need one of these. I don't want to trade I wouldn't want to trade a potential starter away just so I can get a pick or get somebody else.
Next question here from Robert. He says, can Phillips press for the starting one technique spot for Mozzie? And also, Bryan, any advice for someone who would want to talk about the Cowboys for a living? That's what Robert is asking.
Yeah, get fired as a scout.
Or, you know what? Like Bryan said at the beginning, they'll hire anybody because they let me talk about it.
Me and Bobby doing a podcast saying, they'll hire anybody.
They let me talk about them. Put in the work. That's the biggest thing. Put in the work. And
really seriously, I'm very blessed to work with some really great people, and there's a lot of folks out there that have started through the YouTube ranks and things like that, and they're content creators and they do a tremendous job, and they're highly respected guys and gals. So yeah, there's always a possibility of talking about the Cowboys,
but you can't fake the work. You gotta do the work. You can't fake it. You can't fake it. Got to do the work. And the question was, could Jordan Phillips push Mozzie for the starting one technique job?
He's a three. They got him playing the three.
He is one technique size, but the skill set is three technique. Yeah. So probably not, especially because more of what Jordan Phillips does that looks good on tape, I think a lot of times is what he does as a pass rusher and not as much in the run stuff. So probably less likely on that front. Next question, we got another Alex. This is Alex H. And I guess this ties back to the beginning of the show, Bryan. Have either of you two, not with each other, I guess, but have either of you two ever gotten so mad that you had to walk off the set and cool off? You ever had to do that in your career, Bryan?
The maddest I've ever been on a set, Mickey Spagnola and I went after it one time. And it was with Bill Jones and Rob Phillips. And Mickey and I were MFing each other. I mean, we went to break. I went after him. He went after me. We were dropping F-bombs on each other. Bill Jones looked at me and looked at Mickey, and it was kind of like, just like, oh my God, what's happening? Rob Phillips, guys. He's like, guys. And I looked at Rob and said, you shut the F up. and Rob just threw his hands up like, okay. Me and Mickey are just going at it. We come back from break, and we were like, nothing happened. We were like, we went right back into the show. Yeah. And Mickey, I don't think Mickey is a huge fan of mine by any means. I respect Mickey. I do a lot. I think Mickey, there's times where, I'm like, I understand where Mickey's at right now in life. Because I'm getting there, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I mean, he and I were going at it. That is the maddest I've ever been on a set, but I didn't walk. But we came back and we were like, finished the show, and he left, I left, and from this day on, I'm not going to go to dinner with Mickey Spagnola, and he's not going to go to dinner with me. But I respect his work and that's kind of how it is. But that's the maddest I've ever been. People might have saw that on DallasCowboys.com. We were doing the show, and we literally were at break. And if you could watch in the camera and you can lip read, I called him an MFer like 8 times really fast.
Do you remember what the topic was?
It was something that I accused him of not watching tape.
Oh.
And he spun it, and he's like, well, like, just because you're a MF and scout, one of those things. And I'm like, okay, all right. And you know what? I was probably wrong. Like, I'm wrong a lot. I'm wrong a lot because I get in these discussions, these arguments. But man, he and I went at it, and like he that little Italian got cross with me fast. But I don't blame him. I really don't. I don't blame him one bit.
The maddest I ever got, I didn't walk off set, but as soon as it was over, I closed my laptop and I walked off. And that's when we interviewed Dan Orlovsky on set at Super Bowl in Phoenix. And I have zero respect for him. And so I closed my laptop and walked off before we were even completely signed off. And it was like, all right, I'm going to take a lap. I'm not hanging around for the fake glad handing with this idiot. So that was the maddest that I've ever been. Two more for you. Here's a question from Christopher from Alaska. And shout out to Christopher, who I know is going through a lot with his newborn baby, Sam, a lot of different medical stuff. They're in the hospital right now. So shout out to you, Christopher. He's saying, who's the practice squad candidate who could actually get signed elsewhere? So, Bryan, I think when you talk about potentially cutting Willie Harvey, I think most teams had identified top UFL linebacker was Harvey coming out. And so anybody that needs linebacker, maybe Harvey, Malik
Cropper.
Davis as a Cropper could potentially be one of those guys. Tyron Billy Johnson is a guy who has hung around the NFL for a long time, bouncing around practice squads and teams. And so he could be another one that's similar in that fashion. If you were to try and sneak Andrew Booth to the practice squad, you might get snatched up there. So I think those are some of the guys that stand out.
Yep, I agree with you on that. Justin Rogers, if you try to get cute, it could be like a John Ridgeway situation.
Yeah,
you know
does somebody have a high grade on Nathan Thomas and was just afraid of medicals?
There you go. Yeah.
They may take a flyer then. Last question here from Titanic G. Can you help me not be overly excited about our rookie class? They seem to be ready to contribute immediately. Bryan, are you feeling optimistic about what the rookie class is showing to this point? We've seen
whoever drafted 2 years ago doesn't need to get in the war room anymore. No, that's unfair. They've got some kids that are trying to get back at it. This looks like a pretty good class.
Guyton, Nealon, Beebe, Leofau.
They've got a plan. They got a plan for these kids, and the way the left tackles look so far, he's got to get better with his hands. I guarantee you, Duke Merriweather. I always say his name wrong.
Manyweather. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love Duke. Super nice guy.
Yeah.
When Duke watches the tape and he's going to see Guyton's hands, he's going to try and coach him up on him because he's going to miss with his hands. His technique now is headbutt, hands outside, and then reset hands. Which causes him, because he's so athletic, he's able to kind of recover from the headbutt, but he's headbutt, hands. I could show you 5 or 6 clips in this game where because he's such a good athlete. But yeah, this class looks good when you look at overall the contributions that they're probably going to be able to make. Much so than the class that was 2 years ago that's still trying to find their way.
That does it for us here today on the Love of the Star podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We have one more preseason game coming up this week, first home game. We're going to be out at the stadium for that. And then after that, we got cut downs. And before you know it, week 1 of the NFL season will be here on the road against the Cleveland Browns. And then right around the corner, the Saints coming to town for the home opener against Cowboys. So a lot left to still cram into a short amount of time, but we'll be here for all of it. For Bryan Broaddus, I'm Bobby Belt. We will talk to you guys again later. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.